In the Gospel of John, we're told that at the time of the death of Lazarus, when Jesus saw his friend Mary weeping and saw the others who came with her also weeping, he was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved and began to weep. This is a season of celebration for us, really, a season when we share many of the things that we do together as a community that are important to us. It strikes me today that of all the things we do together as a community of faith, one of the most important ones may not be so obvious. We weep with one another. We grieve. We make room for the expression of grief in our life together and practice it openly in a way that becomes a form of bearing witness in the midst of a world that often seeks to whitewash grief, to paper over loss, and insist that everything is okay, even when it is not. As it says in our church covenant, we covenant with God and with one another to walk our spiritual journeys together. Along the way, we believe God calls us to laugh together, to celebrate life and affirm its goodness. Everybody likes that, of course. That's something we want to do together. And in times of sadness and trial, to weep with one another and bear one another's burdens. We practice this commitment to one another in a variety of ways by supporting pastoral care and congregational care for those who are dying and for their families, by sharing our losses with one another in prayer on a weekly basis, by marking times of tragedy in the world around us like we are this Sunday, by taking the time to grieve and remember those whom we lose during memorial services, and by maintaining a place of remembrance and reflection in our memorial garden just beyond this wall. Why is this important? Because we live in a world that tells us that nothing is sacred. In subtle ways and obvious ways, we're constantly being given the message that nothing is sacred, that we are merely consumers, accidental bearers of DNA, briefly bumbling our way through basically meaningless lives. In such a world, grief and loss are to be avoided because they're painful and because there's no meaning to be found in this world beyond trying to accumulate a little happiness and pleasure for ourselves alone along the way. For us, then, to grieve together openly is to acknowledge the loss of something or someone important to us. Even more, it is to bear witness to the fact that something or someone we lose is sacred to us and to the world. By grieving together, we express our deep sense that those whom we love and lose are important to the very fabric of things, because their names are remembered, their memory is held in the very heart and mind of God. This, of course, is a statement of faith. I mean, that's what we do here, faith, right? This is a statement of faith, which is to say that expressing our grief together is a statement of faith. I would even say it is one of the most important statements of faith we make together, because by doing so, we declare that life matters, that our lives matter, and that the life of the world around us matters in an ultimate, eternal way, no matter what may happen, no matter what we may be told. When Jesus saw her weeping and saw the others who came with her weeping, he was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved and began to weep too. Grief is also a statement of love. For you will only grieve that which you have first come to love. In that sense, our prayers for those experiencing loss, our services of remembrance for those we lose, our tender care for one another at the time of death, our tending of this place of memory, are all extensions of our practice of God's love toward one another. The Apostle Paul named this as a core practice of Christian faith and community when he urged the members of the church in Rome to let love be genuine. Love one another with mutual affection. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. It's very central to our practice, our spiritual practice as a community of faith. The practice of grief in a communal context has always been an important part of the religious impulse in human beings. Many scientists point to Neolithic burial practices as the very first evidence of the awakening of human consciousness. When human beings woke up in the world the way that we know that, as they started burying their dead and holding rituals to name their dead as sacred. That is the birth of human consciousness in many ways, the recognition of the sacredness of life. Over half of the Psalms, meanwhile, which sit at the very heart of both the scriptures and worship in our tradition, are considered psalms of lament and complaint. Herman Gunkel, many years ago, a great scholar of the Psalms, categorized the Psalms. There were psalms of praise, psalms of thanksgiving, royal psalms, but over half of the psalms are psalms of lament and complaint. Apparently, our ancestors in faith embraced communal lament and complaint to God as an appropriate response to loss and injustice. The Old Testament contains an entire book of lamentations written after the